Let's call the meeting to order at 6:36. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Roll call.
Here.
Here.
Yeah. Here.
Present. Here.
Present.
Present. All right. Mayoral report. We have a couple acknowledgements. This is National Women's History Month. March 21st is World Down Syndrome Day. I have one other request from the board. I do have a contract that the board will need to approve and ratify for the kickoff concert. Although there's an NDA until we sign the contract. The number is the same as what we spent in the past for the previous bands. It was I think $30,000 fee for the band, which is a well-known band, but they need it signed by the 22nd. So if there's any objection to it, let me know. Otherwise, there's an NDA right now. So, right, Jim. So that's what we need to get the approval from the board. Yeah, general, if there's any objection to it, but that would be for the kickoff concert June 12th. Hopefully, that will be coming out for the public soon once it's signed. It's not shared. Or Madonna. All right, so we have citizens wishing to address the board. Next, I know I have one that signed up, and we have one individual that has to be on Zoom. As you know, it's our policy not to do public comment on Zoom, but we did request for that to be sent to us in writing if they preferred. And so I'll give our clerk the sign-in sheet, and she can read the statement from the individual that would want to make public comments. Ainsley, do you know the rules? Okay. Right.
This is from John Mathavas. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Gardner, honorable trustees, village officials, and my fellow residents. My name is John Mathavas. I'm the junior vice commander at the Antioch Veterans Foreign Wars Post 4551, ad hoc member of the Antioch Veterans Memorial Committee and resident of the village. I thank you for the opportunity to address the committee regarding the Antioch Veterans Memorial site location. These comments reflect both my personal and duty position with the Antioch VFW Post. As time has evolved since the inception of the AVM concept, there have been a number of ebbs and flows in various forms. This includes public support, financial support, organizational support, public and private, and interpersonal issues. This is the nature of a project, any project with population-wide impact for various reasons and location. But in this instance, the project also tugs on the heartstrings of many residents and officials alike due to the Veterans Association. To provide some clarity for the board and residents of the village, the VFW membership, through a general meeting vote, supports the efforts of both the AVM committee, the village, in their allocation of the land and resources necessary to begin the immediate construction of the memorial as presented in rendering and text. I share this as junior vice commander as well as an Antioch resident. While personally a transplant to the village after my military service, I feel a strong sense of community here and believe that this memorial in its current form will further the community's commitment to their veteran neighbors. Delaying any progress will be detrimental to the public support and negatively impact the financial viability of the project. Mothers, fathers, generations before, sons and daughters for generations to come will all have this icon in a great location that is conducive to the feel of the downtown area. The time for protracted deliberations as to location has passed. I strongly encourage a unanimous yes vote by the trustees, as well as a supplementary yes vote from the mayor to ratify the village location as previously presented by the AVM committee. Again, thank you for the opportunity to address you all in your consideration of the position of the Antioch VFW members and my personal position. Good evening, God bless. Ainsley Wonderling.
My name is Ainsley Wonderling, and I live at 41413 North Soria Drive in Antioch. And I am here with a 180-degree opposition to the last statement. The wetlands location is not good for the Veterans Memorial. It was to be a designated wetlands and green space in the middle of town. It is also needs to be clarified if it has been cleared by the environmental EPA and Army Corps of Engineers and the stormwater management, because this is a large concrete area and it will need to be approved by that, and it is a wetland, so I'm questioning whether it can even be considered to have this built on the site. Yes, the memorial is to my father, and for that, I feel that building this monument in the location presented will completely obliterate the entrance to the wetlands. It will be nothing but monuments. It is too large. It goes back to the walkway. It prohibits the views that were meant to be there of the green space of the wetlands. There are people that are willing to step forward and to help preserve and restore the wetlands to what it was in 25 years ago. The Lions Club was very instrumental in building this park, and to put another monument on a previously dedicated monument is wrong. There are many or several other very good locations in which to place the memorial, and I feel that that the board should take this into consideration and not put it in front of the wetlands.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I didn't say this earlier. This is a little unconventional tonight because there's a lot of discussion items. So we generally start with the regular meeting where we vote on items and then go to the committee of the whole. But tonight, I flip-flopped that agenda. So we are now in the committee of the whole meeting, which is for discussion purposes and presentations, since there are a couple of those tonight. But the first regular business on the committee of the whole meeting is the approval of the February 26, 2025 meeting minutes as presented. Do I have a motion and a second? It's on the regular meeting. We'll get to that. Do the committee meeting first, then we'll do the consent when we start the regular.
So moved. Second.
Motion trustee Peterson, second trustee Berman. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, 6 voting yes, motion carries. First, next item, number 2 is discussion regarding electronic vehicle charging stations. I believe Assistant Administrator Moran.
Good evening, Mayor, village board, residents. The ordinance before you tonight is as we begin to activate the Seaway Creek Park electric vehicle charging station. We need to have an ordinance in place to set the rate for the charging station. So I've been working with our legal counsel and Amy from our IT department to make sure that we set a rate that works well or works with the charging station, that it's we set a rate either per hour or per kilowatt hour that works well with our charging station and in accordance with the law. So the ordinance before you basically just spells out what we're able to, the enforcement of the parking spot for an EV only vehicle and for charging, and then the rate will be determined and then filed with the village clerk. One of the things that we're looking at right now is what we're able to, the legality of the non-home community and what we're able to charge. Surveying other communities in the area, some communities charge for EV charging stations per kilowatt hour, some charge per hour. If you guys are okay with it, if it works well with our legal counsel, I prefer charging per hour, because that's more of a standard metric that most people are familiar with, and then setting the rate, somewhere we can't charge too much over what our costs are for electricity. So a conversation rate probably be about $1 an hour. EV charging stations. Are there any questions? Any
questions? All right, so I believe this is on the next. A lot of this stuff is discussion and okay.
I got one.
Okay,
That coming up. I don't think this is in line with, most of the EVs are now owned by Shell. So like Anastasia's now, Shell took over it. They own Anastasia's. I don't think it's $1. They don't charge per hour.
But I think, is it free for the first hour?
Oh, no, not anymore. No, you charge your account. It's all mixed into accounts. You you put money in your account and then it's charged to your credit card per minute. It's all per minute now. So per hour, people, I mean, how do you, people may go there for 30 minutes. Per hour, you're way undercharging. EVs they put it to almost to a gasoline rate. So you gotta ask, probably the best avenue is ask Billy what they're charging for what Shell charges to be equal to what their rate is.
So I know based on the discussions with the legal counsel, like we pay like 7 cents a kilowatt hour or something like that for electricity. And then we can't charge much more than that. So that 10 cents a kilowatt hour is like 80 cents an hour or something like that.
Then you don't wanna give it away. You don't wanna give it away for infrastructure and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, just gotta make sure the numbers are correct. The
Well-
Shell took over the infrastructure of all, basically every generic EV charger out there.
I will look into that. We'll make sure we charge as much as we can in line with what's acceptable.
Trustee Pierce?
I was just gonna say, tonight, the discussion is, the item before us, which is controlling who uses them spots or not uses them spots and the ability to be able to charge or not. And so if we're gonna be discussing the kilowatt hours to the degree that, it's gonna be what the legal things are, ramifications, I think that should come before the board once you have comparisons of cost and a plan put in place so we can see what it is before you implement.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We'll move this to. Yep, sure.
Just to address.
What if I said no?
And I would say that down. Just to address trustee Pierce's comment. Under current village ordinance, we have a parking space that's designated. That we have an ordinance in place that currently controls that. We would seek a little direction from the board on how they would like to regulate that. If we do park, given that there's only capacity. One of the disabled parking spaces shares community charter, so if we limit it to EV vehicles only within those parking stalls. That means that only individuals with disabilities who have an EV vehicle will be permitted to park in that. So whoever's probably seeking to be a little bit more nimble on the ordinance itself, not necessary restrictions, kind of the first serve. But of course, if the board has a different opinion, we're happy to look into that. But that was kind of our thought process, given that there's a limited number of spaces. Two of which are EV, but they're not designated EV. So if we designate EV, it would prevent anything that doesn't have an electronic vehicle.
So you're wanting flexibility, but what's before us is a plan to say only EVs in an EV spot, whether it's on public land such as the village land or in a private owner. If I read it correctly.
We'll review that. There's some. My intent of the ordinance wasn't to establish specific vehicles, because we do have an existing ordinance that currently restricts. Those are EV associated, yes, correct. We'll have to do a little cleanup on
I
that.
don't know, I didn't bookmark. I'm on page 9 of 231, I'm going through that section right there. Page 9 of 231, so it's like 8, 9. 8, I'm on page 8. Packet. 8 and 9. I mean, that's what I'm reading this as.
I think I see what you're saying. So that would be if we designated the parking space for EV. Currently, it's not a designated space for EV. I think that's a discussion that the decision the board would have to make ultimately. My recommendation would be that they not be designated by signage as EV parking only, but available on a first come, first serve for those that have EV, have to be clear time, again, because of the way it's configured with the disabled parking stall that's currently. So
I didn't follow what you just said. I'm sorry. You said you would recommend that we make the EV spots non-EV, first come, first served.
My recommendation, correct, would be that we not specifically designate those parking spaces as electric vehicle parking stalls. If we designate them specifically by signage as EV only, then yes, by ordinance, those that would be parked in there that are non-EV vehicle will be subject to fine and penalty. We're not seeking to designate those spots specifically as EV. And if there's a little cleanup language in the ordinance that's necessary to clarify that, we certainly will. But again, I would hate to see us take a certain percentage of the limited parking we have over there already, knowing the percentage of EV vehicles probably doesn't match the usage.
Okay, I just would say, with the stupefied look on my face at this point in time, I think cleanup may be necessary before you bring this. You got it.
And this is how the ordinance reads right now. The only addition that we've got are deletion, and the only addition is page 2 of the ordinance, page 9 of your packets, relative to user fee, excuse me, under subsection E. That's the only change for anyone that sits right now.
We'll clean it up to make sure it makes more sense.
Thank you. Next item. This is a discussion regarding the Veterans Memorial Project location. Obviously, we've heard from both sides of the discussion, and this has been going on for 2 years now. As you know, there's a group that's been working very hard to raise funds for this project and has renderings to this project. And then there's other veterans groups that have, as you've heard, supported. And I think that being a village project, so to speak, on village property, it's important that the board have an open discussion so we can keep moving this thing forward regarding the timing and location. Like I said, it's it's the village ordinance and is written as where we've done the soil borings, had the engineering done at the kitty corner from the park. And that's always been my understanding and intention of where this is going to be. So I want the board to have an opportunity to discuss this in an open session because ultimately the board will be making the decision on where this is going to be. And like I said, as of right now, I've heard some dissension on it, but this is just up for discussion purposes only right now. So I guess I'll start on this side of the board and then go to the other side of the board. So I'll start here if anyone wants to start. I mean, this is going to be probably a longer protracted discussion. So if I go around multiple times here. So if you're not ready or if you want to be the first to jump in, feel free.
No, hold on.
Okay. Josie Bluthart.
Hold on, point of order, he's on the committee. How can he comment when he's on the committee raising money?
You're the employer.
Mr. Bluth, are you making any money off this committee?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so what's your point of order?
Well, my point of order,
What's your
when I was, when I had a situation where I was representing someone, I had to stand off the dais when I was doing the rivalry because there was money given, there was money exchanged. As the village, we gave money to the organization. As the village, we gave a donation.
Maybe you're profiting,
I was not profiting.
you're rivaling.
I was not profiting. The check did not come to me.
Okay.
The check did not, it went to an insurance company.
Right, but then you work.
I do not work specifically for them, no, I'm over.
Okay.
But I don't work for them. You can use semantics all you want.
I'm not the one using semantics.
I was still forced off the dais.
Right, because you are
At
paid
that point,
compensation.
at that
Through the
point, I
insurance.
received no money at that time. At that point, I received no.
But you're going,
Well, maybe,
okay?
maybe.
Mr. Bluthart, are you gonna receive any commission for any volunteer work that you do with regards to raising money for Veterans Memorial?
Other than a thank you from the commission, other than that, no,
Has it ever been discussed with you?
no,
Have you ever received a written document that says you may receive this money?
no,
Are you doing this on the intent of a brokerage maybe, that you don't work for the commission, but you may get money for it?
not
I don't think
whatsoever.
that a peculiar.
You may proceed. Okay. All right,
First, I want to commend John's letter that was read into the record earlier because he said a lot of things that I was going to mention. But I'm not, so I'm going to keep this relatively short because he talked about a lot of that right off the bat. But when this issue of a Veterans Memorial came up a couple of years ago, about putting it in New Sequoia Creek Park, it caused the administration here and our current and Mayor Gardner and others to try to find an alternative location that would work. And roughly a year and a half to 2 years ago, they came up with that location where it's currently set to be. Since that point, the AVM, the BFW, the Foreign Legion have all raised money for over a year plus, telling people that that memorial was going to be where the sign is right now on that piece of property. We have discussed Memorial Limited in our meetings, but it's all been well known where the memorial would be for well over a year. The committee has raised quite a bit, substantial amount of money that I don't know whether this is going to happen or not, that if this was to change locations could cause people to demand their money back. I would hope that doesn't happen, but that is an option. And literally, I think by changing this location at any time right now will delay this project or potentially kill this project. I think that location across from our new park, we're going to have our new village hall right down the road from it. The band shell makes for a beautiful village commons area. I think it is an area that we can. One thing that was discussed about the location is wanting to have big events there or end parades there or do things like that. The other locations I've heard about, one of the two wouldn't allow us to do that, but the cost would be tremendous. I just think it's a very good location. I do understand Ainsley's concerns and I wish those would have been brought up 2 years ago or a year and a half ago when this was first discussed, so that maybe this wouldn't have gotten this far to this point. But at this point, I'm 100% in favor of building it where we have cited it to be. I think the construction groups that are willing to volunteer their time and efforts, they're ready to go starting next month, potentially, if we get this approved and everything under permitted and so forth. And the fact that they've raised a substantial amount of dollars already based on that location, I think it would make sense for us to just move forward and approve that location at this time. And that's all I'll say at this point. Just anything else?
You just had a question. I don't know if the village administrator would be the right person, but based on what Ainsley brought up, I know we did soil boring testing there, but is there any validity to not being allowed to build? Is it designated wetland? Has that been reviewed by, I don't know if the village administrator knows.
There's only one guy there. He's walking up
Oh, okay.
there.
We did indicate on the plan that Vanguard did, the floodplain and wetland, this would not be impacted. As far as permitting, the Army Corps wouldn't be involved because it's not impacting the floodway. We are, excuse me, they're a certified community underneath stormwater management, so we would permit it. It's below 5,000 square feet of impervious surface, so we would not really need a WDO permit, but also would be required any protection or drainage.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I sort of agree with Trustee Blue that I like the location and that it creates a focal point. And I don't want to take away from the other memorial that we have there or the wetlands, but I think it almost brings more people to that area and creates a nice, like he said, like a village commons area where you see the wetlands, you see the park, you see our band shell area. So I see it as a good location, but I'd like to hear what the rest of the board has to say as well.
Trustee Pierce.
I totally agree with Mr. Mahathis, that's how I pronounce his name's letter to the board. I think that the time has passed for deliberation. I do think it's a good location. this location, we should have done it 2 years ago when we decided where it was gonna go. I think, no matter where we put a memorial, we have an obligation to get one done. And this is our best chance to get one done without going back to the drawing board and starting all over and wait another 2 or 3 years for it to be completed and possibly losing donors' money and other things. So I would be okay with this location.
Trustee Mason?
Yeah, I'm in favor of memorial, let's, for the best, let's just stop. So everybody understands. The one thing is 50 feet wide, everybody's gotta know it encroaches on Bill Brooks Memorial, that's the problem I have. So, when we put a memorial down, the memorial is for how long? And when you put a memorial down, and there's a couple concerns they have with the location, is you got the carnivals there, and then you're gonna have kids jumping up and down, how is this stuff gonna be protected and the honor given to the monuments? It's thrown on them, vandalized, because it's in a spot that is not seen. And when we did the Bill Brooks Memorial 25 plus years ago, the village had a responsibility of all the work that was done and all the volunteers. There was no maintenance money given, it was all dilapidated. And that became basically, I call it crack addict. Everybody, that's where everybody goes to do drugs or sell dope, and you know, you got that right there, and you don't want a beautiful memorial. All of a sudden, someone comes with spray cans, who's responsible for vandalism? Because you don't have a camera, you don't have it, and what's the, you know, when you have something that's been there over 25 years, should there be some type of boundary before you do another memorial? Should there be, 25 feet? You're gonna have one memorial on top of a memorial. I got a problem with it being as size as this. When you go to other towns, villages, you take Lindenhurst is not, by definition, 50 feet by that big. It's just not that encompassing. Lindenhurst did a beautiful memorial. And the other problem I have with, and we all agreed, we all shook heads at the library, that everybody's gonna be involved. And you don't wanna lose color guard at our future parades because the Legion's not involved. The township's not involved. This is a sanctioned memorial. And right now, it's not a sanctioned memorial, all due respect. We don't have the American Legion on board. We gotta get everybody sanctioned. And it's, everybody's on board, everybody's got a say, so everybody signs off on it. That's the only problem I have, everybody signs off. Every vet's happy on it. American Legion or VFW, I'm happy that they're on board with it. Finally, everybody said, at that meeting at the library, everybody shook. They said, yeah, we're gonna have a representative from VFW, we got that done. We're gonna have a representative from the American Legion, that's not done. And 2 years ago, there was a study done that it was gonna be by the tank, that study was done. I don't have any bore samples in here, so we can claim that was done. I don't have it in my packet that bore samples are done. So I have no problem it being down where you can't encroach it on a family's memorial. Gotta be like putting it somewhere where another family member up here is. You just can't do it. You gotta crunch it up a little bit. And you can't have it where it blocks that. And then we gotta figure out, okay, well, what are we gonna do with the Bill Brooks Memorial? We're gonna clean that up. And then what are you gonna do with the carnivals? You can let kids climb all over the stuff. It's just, it's gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna be a police problem to patrol that. Because that's gonna be sacred ground. You don't want people climbing all over that. And if you don't have it patrolled properly, people are gonna get really upset. That sacred ground and people climbing all over it. So that's why people put it where it's usually by federal buildings, post offices, police departments, it's out in the open, so people can keep an eye on it. You can't see nothing down there, people don't go down there, it's not in the village view. So that's why the study was, that's by the tank, that was the best place for it. So I'm all for the vets, I'm all for it, but you gotta have everybody on board, township, American, and we don't get this, I was told that we will not have color guard for our parades, by the American Legion. They are not on board, and that's sad. We gotta get them on board. We can't have half of the vets just pissed off and upset. That's just wrong. So I'm in favor of everybody on board. Sanction it out, get everybody on board.
Trustee Peterson?
And I would like to say that I too, support the vets. I related to several of them. When I was told, I asked several years ago, probably 3.5 years ago, I asked if this location was going to interfere with the Billbrook wetland. And I was told, no, it's gonna be next to it. And I said, are you sure we're not gonna encroach on that? And I was told by the previous administrator that it was going to be next to it, it would not encroach. So I thought that would be fine. And when Ainsley didn't come forward, I thought it would be fine with her too. I didn't know, she didn't know about it. I had no idea that, you know, I mean, she's our historian and she's, you know, at a lot of our meetings, I just assumed she knew, you know, like, I shouldn't have assumed. So I did speak with her and I found out that the main circle of the memorial is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 50 feet. It's very large. And it does go right up to the gravel. And trees that were planted for the Billbrook Wetland Memorial that go with, they were purposely put there because they're part of a wetland. They're gonna have to come down. There are going to have to be changes to the Billbrook wetland because of this. And I'm just wondering if the committee is open to making it a little smaller, like take that 50-foot circle and bring it in a little bit more so it doesn't encroach. I'm wondering if we can come to a compromise. And so that the Billbrook wetland will be safe and the Veterans Memorial can go there, but be just a tad smaller. Be smaller so that you're not encroaching. You're not right up to the gravel of the wetland. I'm just wondering if that's an option for compromise.
Thank you.
For right now, that's all I have.
And just kind of piggyback off of the sub, for the size of it, I do agree. I think that it is too big for that area. As far as moving forward, yes, I was one of the first board members to say the night that we started talking about this, that it needed to move on and this needed to get done, but it needs to be done in the correct way. And without being disrespectful to another memorial. I guess we'd have to look at it as we have Ainsley's father's memorial. Now let's say this was the other way around and they wanted to do that on the Veterans Memorial. I don't think that that would go over very well. I also don't think that it's right that if there's any veering from what has already been stated about what's going to happen, it's automatically made into somebody doesn't support veterans, okay? I don't agree with that. My grandfather fought in World War II, so I 100% support veterans, and I support this memorial, and I think that the way that this is being presented, when anybody has any kind of disagreement or anything that is not what has already been stated, I feel that people are being attacked for that, and I don't think it's right. I think that I would hope everybody in this room and everybody that's been involved wants this done the correct way, just like we did with our park. We want it done right. We want it to last for a long time. And sometimes that means putting brakes on for a little bit to figure out and tweak what needs to be tweaked so that other people aren't getting their feet stepped on. I do think Ainsley brought up a lot of good points. I think Trustee Peterson brought up good points, and I think Trustee Masek brought up some good points. And I think that those need to be considered instead of pushing forward. And I do believe that we need to have all groups that are intended to be involved, like the American Legion, they need to be part of this discussion. Whatever else is going on where everybody's arguing, that needs to stop. This needs everybody's involvement, or I don't see how this is gonna move forward.
All right, awesome. All right, so, all right, yeah, I agree with a lot of this said on all parts of this. I will say that I can understand why they've been talking about this for 20 years and never getting it done, because I've witnessed it the last 2 years. Literally 2 hours ago, getting text from a group saying, I don't support veterans, which couldn't be further from the truth. We wouldn't be doing this, trying to build this and actually get it done if we didn't support veterans. In 20 years from now, 50 years from now, no matter where it goes, nobody's going to remember these conversations we're having. They're going to know that we have a veterans memorial in town that's, for the whole town and for veterans. Unfortunately, what I found out, it's more about the personality conflicts and competing interests and rubber stamping it than it is actually getting the project done, which I think as a village board, we have to rise above that. I think that we have to understand that, yes, there are many groups that are invested, the VFW, American Legion, the Veterans Memorial Group that has done a lot of work and spent a lot of time raising funds to make this even a glimmer of a possibility of happening. And we are right there on the verge of actually getting this done, which is what we wanted to do 2 years ago. So again, I agree. The project can be tweaked. There are going to be some discussions about, sizes and, locations in that spot. But to go to the back to the drawing board, I just don't know if it ever gets done. And again, I hope that when it's all said and done, we're all realizing that this is for the community and for all veterans groups and not just, an individual project or one group's project. And honestly, I'm disappointed on how this whole thing has transpired over the last 2 years because we've just been trying to do something that's the community's been asking for 20 years and wondering why it couldn't get done. And now I know, but I'm committed to making sure this thing gets done and gets done within the next, year or whatever it takes. So that being said, I'll listen to any other comments, but again, I just want to say, I want to be respectful of all parties, veterans, families that already have memorials there. Anything we do, I'm committed to improving the Millbrook property. I'm embarrassed that we haven't done it yet 4 years ago. That was one of the things I said we were going to do. And I think that it needs to be a priority of the board in addition to this, especially with our new village hall going there, enhancing that whole area is very, very important. And so I just hope that whatever we decide tonight or we vote tonight or whatever happens, that as a community, when we have these events, that everybody feels welcome there, that they're part of this project. So
I just got one.
yeah, sure.
So, the American Legion spent a lot of time and money and the manpower redoing the tank. So you're gonna have two memorials, you're gonna have the tank, and then you're gonna have the VFW owns the tank, which really the US Army has owned, that's on loan to the VFW. So what's gonna happen in that section, you're gonna theoretically have two areas now. You're gonna have the tank there and the other section. So they put all, that's why when I said you gotta have all parties involved, they spent a lot of, you don't wanna kick sand in their face.
I agree.
And they spent a lot of time and money cleaning that tank up.
I,
And not, and that's why I think you should delay and reach out to them, because I know Jay Joswick, the commander, reached out to you to ask for a conversation, a meeting, force a vote. Paul Heddick also reached out for a conversation. It's not fair to have everybody, because we, at the library, everybody shook their head and said, yeah, let's get everybody involved. And now, why it can't get done? Because things change. All of a sudden it changed from the library meeting to today. It changed. Nothing changed, but the way you're not reaching out. People are reaching out to you. American Legion's reaching out. I don't understand. I just don't understand. They put a lot of
no, I
time
agree.
and money to clean that tank up.
I will say this, I did get 2 text messages today about that, so I didn't have a chance to, respond to those yet. The meeting at the library was more about the veterans committee, and I'm still committed to going and doing that. I'm actually meeting with the Mr. Shaughnessy tomorrow to discuss some of those items as well. But yes, I want them to feel as included. I would hope, like again, a meeting like this or a forum like this would be a place where they could feel welcome to come and, you know, at least let the whole board and the public know their position on this stuff. I know we generally know it, but you know, I will have those conversations with them. But ultimately, whatever the 6 or 7 people up here decide is what's going to be the where it's going to go. But again, taking all of that into consideration, like I said, this group started as a different group in the beginning, and then that group splintered for one reason or the other. Which again, we were just trying to get everybody to work together, and however those factions happened is, I guess, here nor there at this point. But like I said, it disheartens me that the veterans group as a whole can't all get behind this project, no matter what it is.
Time is to see. I just think we should delay it and just reach out.
Trustee Pierce?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you know, I'm trying to be nice up here, be polite, be respectful. But as the only maybe non-sanctioned veteran on the board who has actually served, my heart is in having a veterans memorial. My heart's having a tank. My heart's in having that stone right in front of the building. Somebody wants to build another memorial over there. My heart's in that. As many veterans memorials we can have all over town, the better we are, as far as I'm concerned. And to sit here and say, delay because the American Legion is not involved. I'm sorry, they were involved and they withdrew. They had all the opportunity in the world to be involved. At Christmas, when we had nobody leading our parade with a flag, I was embarrassed. And I think that's part of having this all community is everybody coming together under what he tried to do was a veterans commission and having that bring things back together. But the topic tonight is on a veterans memorial that we've been arguing over for months, years. And every time it makes progress forward, there's a reason to delay it. At some point, delay has to stop on things and things have to move forward. Otherwise, you lose donors, you lose locations, you lose companies willing to build. We end up losing, our veterans end up losing. And it's not being disrespectful to somebody that disagree with them. I disagree with people on a lot of things. And I know there's a lot of people who disagree with me. That's fine. But name calling, texting the mayor and saying he doesn't support veterans, texting Ed, or maybe you're talking to Ed saying he doesn't support veterans. We all support our veterans. It's something this country's built upon is our veterans and the efforts they put forward. And we need to just stop, move forward, stop delaying. And then you talk about the size, proportionality and all that stuff. it was sold at a certain size. The columns fit a certain size. You're reducing columns, you're reducing unfortunately, you're reducing footprint. Then you have to redesign columns. And somebody says, well, the columns half the size now. I want half my money back. I mean, I'd hope they wouldn't say that, but somebody could possibly say that. It's time to stop and just move forward and get this done. Because as the mayor says, we've been hearing about a Veterans Memorial I've been hearing about it for 20 years or more. So as a veteran, I just think we need to get together and just get it done. And that's why I support moving forward at this point, putting it where it's at. And then figuring out that doing our duty that we should be doing for the Brooks Memorial and for the new Village Hall and the band show there, and making that area proud. We can be as proud of as we are as this park that we just built down there. It's just time to move on and get it done.
And the respect factor, excuse me. I knew Bill Brook. And this town is what it is today because of Bill Brook. He was a foundation in this town. There are businesses that would have gone under if it wasn't for the support of Bill Brook and the State Bank. He was the foundation of Antioch. That's why that memorial's there. And I know it's large. I know it, we have the band show. We've got the hill, the whole walkway through the wetlands. I know it's big, but that was the whole intent by the men and women who put it together and built it. And the Lions Club even helped them. It's disrespectful to him to encroach on his. That's why I'm just saying, it's the entire wetland down there was the Billbrook wetland. The entire thing is the Billbrook wetland. Ainsley is willing to share it with him, but don't encroach on the actual entrance to it. And the part of the pylons or the part of the memorial is going to be blocking the entire entrance. And it's enormous, and it's the concrete's gonna come right up to the gravel. And I looked at the plans, we looked at it today. Is there any way that you could reduce the size of it? Just, and compromise?
Can I ask a
If-
question, Mary?
Pardon me?
Question about
Yeah.
that? I know we're talking about reducing the size, and I know it's a perfect circle at this point.
Yes.
Again, this may or may not be a possibility. Would making it more of like oval shape make a difference?
I
to
don't
where it's-
know, I don't know, I'm certainly
Yeah,
not
and
a planner or an engineer or an architect.
I think it's proper for the committee who's in.
Yeah.
Do you need?
I mean, is there any kind of a compromise in the future here?
We meet, I believe Dennis will be
Friday.
Friday. Dennis will be at the meeting, we meet with, Josh Bowler, our contractor, every 2 weeks. I can talk to him about it, but when you say that it's going to block the entrance, that is incorrect. It is not going to block the entrance to the wetlands.
So those are not going to be on the side, they're gonna be in the back. What do you call them? The
Pillars?
monuments, okay.
Monuments.
They're toward the back,
Yes,
in front of the wetland.
yet they will be in the back.
Okay, they would not be blocking the entrance.
No.
But the concrete's gonna go right up to the entrance.
The
walkway.
What walkway are you referring to?
Well, where the bricks are, where the gravel is, and where the.
No.
It's not gonna be over that far.
2 feet.
There's two
No.
walkways. It says a circle comes out. Two spots. It goes in one spot, comes out another spot.
Jim Moran, if I send you something, would you be able to maybe put it on the
Sure.
screen potentially? I'll try and see if I can send it.
Yeah, I don't know when you say walkway, to me, it's the entrance where the bricks are. Currently, right, the memorial bricks, or the entrance to the
And
wetland.
There's rocks there.
Yeah, no, we're to the
How many
east
feet
of
away from
that.
that are you?
That I don't know, and I don't have the drawing with me. I don't know. if Dennis remembers.
Yeah, you're both Mary and I are confused.
I don't, I can definitely get the plans and send them to you.
Yeah, that's what both of them are confused, we don't want to encroach on another memorial.
It is set away from the main, paper brick entrance. I can see how far that is exactly, and if there's any room to shift it a little bit.
Well, actually, Dennis, that's one of the reasons why we wanted you to come to the meeting on Friday, because of the light pole. We're not sure we can move that light pole. Josh had questions about it, so it would have to be shifted to the east anyways because of a light pole that's there. So yeah, it would be shifted even further away from the entrance. So that's why I'm confused about the encroachment. Okay.
Should I, okay, so I see Andy, okay, I'm gonna make a suggestion that maybe not a good one, but, you know, maybe since we're talking about this memorial and that memorial, maybe Ainsley should go at 10 o'clock on Friday also, so the parties can hopefully come to some consensus on, you know what I'm saying, if there's a dispute on the size of it. But I know she wants to say something, but,
I do.
yeah, why you can, because there's people on Zoom probably, Ainsley, just on the microphone so people can hear if they're on Zoom.
I saw Deb's plans, and it does not encroach on the entrance, but it does encroach on the walkway. And it takes all the trees out back to the walkway with a 2 foot, it was 2 feet, Deb, from the end of the monument or the memorial to the gravel walkway that connects to the boardwalk. And it will, from the street, all you will see is the monuments, it will block the entrance to the wetlands. And the wetlands property actually includes that entire corner. So you are building on the wetlands, it's not wet, but it's part of the wetlands park. And so it would be built there, and if it were reduced by half in size, I don't think you'd lose any money. I don't think you'd lose any money, but it would fit better, it would look better, it would not block the vista of the wetlands, which is what was intended to be there. It was a green space. It was thought of long before Sequoia Creek Park. And it's supposed to be an area for picnics and for people to enjoy. And a monument, I'm all for veterans, Bob's 2 Purple Hearts, you know, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. And it won't block the entrance, but it's going to block the view and it's going to change things. And it's not going to make a change. It's going to hurt people.
Thank you.
This per se, that's Ainsley trying on her dad.
Again, and that's why I'm glad we're having these discussions in an open meeting.
Sad meeting.
So, yeah, this is being discussed this evening. And we could probably discuss this, we could probably have a whole meeting just for this. It's up at the regular meeting for the consideration and vote. So I'm just looking for guidance from the board on where we go tonight with the idea that we want to move this project along and we want to make sure it gets done sooner than later. And I say sooner than later, I'm meaning this spring or between this spring and next fall at the latest, because I think the contractors are going to be ready to do this. What's the next step, knowing that there's a meeting on Friday with, I think Dennis and Jim Moran are maybe going, if I understand correctly.
Yes, I am.
I'm just looking for suggestions.
Can we postpone it until the vote, until after the meeting on Friday? Even if we have to call an emergency meeting to come in and vote for it. I'm willing to come in you know, and do that, but
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I mean, we could have somebody, we could, you know, as we typically would do, have the committee of the whole meeting and have the votes, you know, coming up, you know, next meeting or whatever that happens, or a special meeting.
for a special meeting, yeah.
The, like I said, a lot of time and effort's gone into this by a lot of people, and I want to be respectful to all parties. And ideally, it's probably a pipe dream in this situation to have a consensus of all the stakeholders would be the ideal scenario. But if we can get to some compromise, you know, in my law practice, I say a good settlement is where both parties feel like they gave something up. And, you know, maybe that's where we land on this. So each side gives a little something up, and in the end, we'll get this thing done. I see Trustee Bluthart has a comment.
Yeah, just consensus is the way to go. I agree. We're never gonna be unified 100% behind the location or everything that has to do with this. But it sounds like there's a consensus to keep it there, just a desire to have it, the shape changed a little bit or the size changed a little. So if that's the case, I mean, we could approve the location and then work on approving the site plan per se in regards to the size of the unit.
Never seen the drawings.
I know I've seen I think Manhart did an engineering sketch, correct? So why don't we, in the engineering sketch, why don't we get all the renderings, engineering sketch, everything in the board packet for, you know, for the meeting, so we can have a vote on it. And like I said, the parties meet Friday, and we have another meeting in, you know, a couple weeks, our special meeting, because like I said, when you talk to Josh, we talk to the contractors, we don't want to lose so, you know, the local contractors, and I'll give a shout out to the ones I know: Bowler Construction, Thielen Sand and Gravel, I think Ozinga. Some of these other companies are doing this as a volunteer project for a veterans group. So I want to make sure we keep that on track. Scott, you had a question or comment?
I was just waiting for you to finish your speaking.
Yeah.
So, I know there's a desire, and I'm sorry that Ainsley's upset. It affects me too. I mean, not as much as you. I mean, I have some skin in the game on that park, the memorial, because that huge boulder that's there, I made sure that was there. So I understand, you know, I've got skin in the game, and I'm sorry that Ainsley's upset. But we've been doing this for years and years, and sometimes being a lawyer isn't a good thing.
I can agree with that, like most of the time.
So, you know,
Rebecca?
if it's on the agenda, I think you have to have the motion to table it. So
Yeah, no.
when it's on the
Yeah, we gotta get to the agenda part.
we gotta table it, you gotta decide to move forward and vote it up or down, and go see where you're going from there.
Yeah, and I think that will come up in the regular meetings, once we get through the committee of the whole. I do want to point out that it's not the best quality, but I did have a small sketch of the footprint that I think Dennis had sent me today, which shows the diameter of 50 feet. There's about a 9-foot setback, I think, from the streets. There's 2 walkways. I think the part that was in controversy is at the, what would be the southeast corner of it. Is about a little, see the walkway there? That's where it gets a little close to like where the walkway is. I think that was the portion that Ainsley was specifying. So just so people have reference, again, I think we'll get some more refined drawings and plans for this, but that I just want to give people a reference point on it. All right, anything else on this item right now? Obviously, it's in the regular meeting as well. Okay, so it'll be discussed in the regular meeting as well, I'm sure, in a couple moments. All right, moving on to the Lions Club. Number 4, discussion regarding the Lions Club proposed renovation of Williams Park Pavilion. If you think I talk a lot, wait till Kevin gets on.
Before you this evening is a request for approval of a memorandum of understanding that's going to allow the administration to work with the Lions Club on a collaborative project to renovate and rebuild the South Pavilion in Williams Park. As we know, that was built 40 years ago, about 45 years ago, with an anticipated lifespan of about 25 years for a structure such as that. So Dennis and his team have done a fantastic job of keeping that functional for as long as possible. There was a structural review of that in 2023 that did confirm that it has reached its useful life. I will let the president of the club speak to the scope of the project. The total project cost is somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 to fully demolish the current structure and rebuild the current structure. And the club has graciously offered to take on the lion's share of that project with the request of small village contribution of roughly $55,000 to help pay for some of the materials, as well as the use of the village electrician to remove existing electrical and then reinstall new electrical along with the lighting and whatnot. So we're looking at probably a total financial impact between staff and labor and a donation to the club to help them with this project of around $60,000. Kevin?
And before Kevin goes, just quickly, there are a couple Lions Club members on here, a bunch of different rooms. All the projects we talked about tonight, the tank, the flagpole, I believe Lions Club paid for it. The Bill Brooks wetlands, Lions Club helped pay for it. The memorial, they're going to be making a donation for that. So and now the Williams Park, the pavilion that's brand new and this new one. So again, I want to thank them, and we should all thank them for all the things they did. But the original pavilion. So yeah, and that club keeps growing. So thanks to these guys, the club, I think when it was about 40 members, and now it's over 100 in a very short period of time. So floor is yours.
Your Honor, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Antioch Lions Club, of Kevin Fielder, the immediate past president, or as the current president calls him, has been president. So yeah, you kind of wrapped it up. What we're looking at is, this has been a project that we've been focused on the entire Williams Park as a whole. For the last 5 or 6 years, it's been on our radar because we've noticed structures over there like the Standard Oil building that we use for our storage for our organization, for our event storage. We share with the village as well. The last time I was here before the board, I believe was about 3.5 to 4 years ago, asking for the right for us to make necessary repairs, facelifts, remodel construction on the Standard Oil building. And the village was able to grant us basically a lease on that for a very low cost, which we appreciate. So we immediately started working with local contractors to get and architects to get drawings on putting a truss style roof on the storage building, as well as some sort of railing and step system to get up into the doorway, which there currently isn't right now, beautifying the outside of it to match the other buildings over there, like the pool and so on. And then after that, phase 2 was potentially going to be a new roof on the old pavilion, new gutters and downspouts, because they were basically non-existent anymore. And as we were looking into the necessary repairs or the facelift that we thought we were going to do for the old pavilion there, we had the structural integrity checked of it, and the posts or the columns, much like these are here in this room, as they go underground, are now structurally jeopardized. So we kind of switched gears, so to speak, putting the Standard Oil building repairs on as a pause right now, which we will get back to, and our focus being on the pavilion. So we opened it up to 3 contractor bids locally in town on what we thought we were going to just do repair, basically, and not get into a complete demolition and replacement, to the tune of approximated amount of about $90,000 it was going to take to shore up each section at a time and replace the vertical pillars that are roughly 12 to 14 feet, I believe, somewhere in that area, and move our way around the entire building, replacing it with new pillars on concrete piers and such to match modern construction. And there was too many unknowns. We didn't know what was in the ground, what we were going to run into. We also were talking about, we're gonna have to replace the roof anyway. So that then led us to a few more committee meetings. I'm sure you guys know how much fun those are to have. And brought up new ideas of just, okay, what's it gonna cost to tear this thing down and start from scratch? So the committee settled in on then 2 of those 3 contractors to bid a total replacement. Mind you, both contractors that we reached out to are both Antioch businesses, and they were surprisingly within, a few $1,000s of each other, even bidding the unknown repair costs estimations. And then we were like, oh, this will be a little easier to decide. How about if there was no structure there, open field, what's it gonna cost to build this estimated plans from Midwest Material Company to build this structure? And again, both contractors came within what we would consider pennies on the dollar almost, in cost. So after a few lengthy discussions, the committee decided to recommend that we go with Lakeshore Construction, who has not only been a pivotal part of this community in building other structures, but they were the ones responsible for building the new pavilion over on the north side of Williams Park right now. Even before we got to that point, we did meet with the village. I believe the committee came here and a few members asking the mayor, the administrator, and Public Works about what kind of structure they would like to see. Do they want a mimic or almost a twin of the new style pavilion with, concrete pads, steel construction, so on and so forth? And those estimated figures were almost, north of $350,000, nearly $400,000, which we didn't really feel is necessarily fiscally responsible, nor could we really afford this club to do so. So we decided that it was going to be appropriate enough to build basically a direct replacement of what's there. However, without putting the wood into the ground, we will be now coring holes, pouring concrete piers into the ground with actual metal boots, so to speak, that the posts slide into to further extend the life of this pavilion onto, I believe, what Bob guarantees the next 100, 200 years, right, Bob?
I'll be John.
That's what so you come find him, his warranty runs out after 200 years, he said. So, but regardless, the estimated costs of both demolition, the materials, the engineered drawings, the construction, including the concrete sublet work, the crane sublet work, additional, the entire contractor bid and stuff, roughly puts this project in the scope of about 175 to upward to $200,000. So we know the engineered drawings are a little over $3,000. We've already paid for them. The next step is to, once those come back, then we can actually have a concrete figure on what the material costs are going to be, which right now are estimated anywhere around, let's just throw a window of $48,000 to $53,000. If you take that figure on the high side, even at 53, add 3,000 to it, you're at 56 plus whatever little miscellaneous there might be with materials, is where that window of $55,000 to $60,000 comes in. And that's where we would like to see if we go ahead and write the check and pay for this stuff and hand over a receipt, can the village reimburse us for that and or make a rounded donation up to $55,000 to $60,000 towards us. We will handle the rest of the costs in terms of sublets, labors, ground maintenance, anything that has to do cleanup wise afterwards. And our contribution into it's gonna be about $115,000 to $125,000 is what our hopeful estimation. Regardless, this is something that we'd like to move forward immediately on. Our contractors are ready to go. We are also asking that the village provide assistance in disconnecting the current electric from the service right now. Hopefully being able to provide some temporary electric there during the construction process. And then also, once the construction process is complete, coming back in with a panel, new outlets, perhaps some nice updated LED lighting, maybe even a large ceiling fan in there or two if you guys see fit, but making it to where it's updated and it's more of a current 2025 type structure and building. So, that being said, that's pretty much all I got.
Just one clarification for the board on this. When we had these discussions, Michael Peterson was in those discussions as well, I believe. And we identified, if we went forward with this project or were involved in anything with the Veterans Project, where would those funds come from? And we do have pickleball courts included in the Centennial Park project, and we budgeted $350,000 for them this year. So we kind of looked at that would be where we would be able to draw funds this year and still have the pickleball courts with the Oslin grant. So just for reference as they're considering this. And again, that's the board would have to approve that change at some point. All right, discussion over here. Anything? Rebecca, move forward. Rebecca, you have a question?
No, I think it's great. I just had a quick question. It's same size as the existing.
Same size, the idea is that in order to also save on the potential what ifs, we're gonna be just shifting it slightly about 4 or 5 feet to the east, so.
Okay.
Because if we start getting into drilling into the ground and we find that there's these large boulders or old car batteries or who knows what they threw down there. Adam, you didn't hear that? Car fire listen to the room. There's not any car batteries or oil tanks in the ground over there, I guarantee it. However, it's gonna be much easier if we just move it over a little bit, drill put brand new footings in there as opposed to battering what's coming.
And so Kevin, at the time we talked, you guys were talking about moving this thing along pretty quickly, even potentially having it completed in time for the chicken barbecue, which we.
Our goal is to have it done by the 4th of July. Bob says done by the 4th of July. I say by Father's Day. We're still battling on that back and forth about when it's gonna be done, but that's our target.
And we did temporarily pause the rentals on that because we wanted to make sure that people weren't renting and then changing plans. Trustee Pierce.
I just want to say, as a Lion, fellow Lions, I'm very proud that you guys are doing this. We know what it looks like over there, and it's sorely needed. So this time, I'd be happy to vote to help support this cause as a part of the village. And thank you for doing most of the cost for the village because it needs done. My question to the attorney is, can we poll the board tonight and have a ratifying vote when we have the final numbers?
It's on.
So
The attorney was diligent enough to make sure it was prepared.
That's that one there.
It is,
There it is, number 12.
We even did a very simple memorandum of understanding upon which we were kind enough to receive an enumeration of the different work. So your MOU will change with one sentence basically that says, Exhibit A says who's doing what, which work, which I'm sure that the Lions Club would be comfortable agreeing to. I'm not putting anybody on the spot, but yes, it's done, it's ready to go. If you vote on it, you can vote on it tonight and have it approved, Mr. Trustee.
Oh, good. They want to make sure they move it.
Lion Masick, anything? All right.
I'd just like to say thank you.
Welcome. Happy to help.
All right.
And that's also gonna be, we're not, that's not gonna be our last, project over at that park either. We are gonna go back to focusing on the.
Hillbrooks wetlands.
And then the general wet. Perhaps, yes, that as well, yes. As you guys know, I mean, we are the, what we call ourselves the #1 civic organization in town, and we do continue to fundraise throughout the year as hard and as much as we can. So as we get our funds in that is raised from the community, we focus on putting them back into 60002 community as much as we possibly can.
Thank you, yes. Oh, very much appreciate
There's one point here. Ainsley is our historian. I think at one point she told me there may have been graves in that area.
There is a cemetery, but it was where the pool is.
Okay.
There's some poltergeist age?
Our contractor's gonna bring holy water thing over there with his bobcat.
Part of the Williams family.
Good luck, Bob. Good luck on that.
Yeah.
We didn't dig any up in the second pavilion, so I think we'll be safe.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Kevin, for your presentation. I think the next ones will pretty much fly through. Item 5, discussion regarding a memorandum of understanding with Protect Lake County. Gotcha.
Yes, so just very briefly, the Antioch Police Department has an opportunity to help to enhance public safety, not only within our community, but the broader Lake County community as a whole. There's a pilot program being developed within Lake County that's being spearheaded by Paul University, UIC, and Loyola. That's being funded by a grant in whole by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So really what this aims to do is to be an early disruptor intervention for violence within communities. One of the challenges we often deal with within law enforcement is we don't currently have resources when we're seeing odd or concerning behavior amongst a community member that would be early indications of targeted violence. Oftentimes these are targeted towards schools, churches, synagogues, businesses where you see mass casualty incidents. So what this will do is I'll give a resource to participating police departments when a concern is identified. to conduct a full behavioral threat assessment of the behavior. And it's going to bring together law enforcement, representatives from the state's attorney's office, educational institutions, businesses, social service organizations, and mental health practitioners. And it will be a collaborative review of all the facts and circumstances of behavior. Will provide recommendations on how to address and disrupt the warning signs, as well as providing additional resources that we can provide the individuals suffering from some of these concerning behaviors that may stem from mental health issues that we currently don't have within our community. There was an informational meeting that we participated in back in Lincolnshire back in April of 24, and we drew roughly 75 attendees from key sectors from throughout Lake County. There will be no financial impact to the village to participate in this beyond that of offering members of our personnel as resources when we do have to come together as a team and have these behavioral assessments. So with that, the PD is going to be looking at the business meeting for approval for execution of a memorandum of agreement to enter into Protect Lake County as an organization.
Trustee Pierce?
This, just curious, is this the first step towards red flag laws?
So red flag laws do currently exist within Illinois. We have had several instances where we've had to act with some of those, kind of goes in hand with firearms restraining orders that we work with. Right now, that's really one of our only available tools, right? If we see somebody exhibiting concerning behaviors, we can apply for a judge for a firearms restraining order, take their guns away, right? That's kind of getting up to the end of these behaviors where we think something is imminent going to happen. This allows us to hopefully intervene much sooner. These behaviors start to come on our radar and begin to escalate. We can have this multidisciplinary team come together, discuss it, fully vet, review the case, and see if there truly is indications of violence, and if so, what the best targeted strategy to intervene early before we get to that point, hopefully, of having to go do search warrants and seize firearms.
Good.
Any other questions on this item? All right, thank you. We'll move that along. Item 6, discussion regarding new financial software. Director Peterson.
Meeting Mayor and work. I do apologize for the timing of this request. I can see where this could be a troublesome spot, but I greatly appreciate the opportunity to make the request. About a month ago, I mentioned the software as a priority. The reason being, Antioch's current software provider, G-Works, had notified the village that they will no longer support the desktop version as of January 1, 2026. So we are in a situation where we have to make a decision. Initially, I was considering the G-Works cloud, which they were wanting us to move forward to. After some discussions with Public Works, finance staff, and IT, they expressed disappointment with G-Works customer service and support. G-Works hosted an onboarding migration to the cloud version. I sat through that as well. Not impressed. Staff wasn't impressed, and it led me to this isn't going to go well for me. We're sitting with the desktop version that I moved to the cloud-based version so that I meet this 1/1 deadline, and everybody's upset with it. And then we have to migrate a second time, convert to another software afterwards. This is going to be all kinds of bad for morale and just the time and energy to go through 2 migrations, in such a short period of time. So pretty much stuck right there. I kind of thought I was just lost there until opportunity came up that this meeting, the committee meeting, was coming before the board meeting, and the agenda wasn't completed. And I said, I'm going for it. I'm coming in. I'm coming asking. So I reached out to BSNA Software. They were used in 149 Illinois local governments, 24 in Lake County. And the software is user friendly. It's right sized. I've worked with it, deployed it in Grays Lake, Lincolnshire. Howard has deployed the community development software side in Chicago, and he's worked with it for a year. So we both have working relationships, understandings of BSNA software and the customer support. Very pleased with it. The competitive pricing guideline skip the spot here. BSNA's, although BSNA is competitively priced and we have an annual licensing fee of $32,700, the most important factor here is deployed by 12/31/2025, and BSNA is committed to meeting that deadline. The competitive process guidelines necessitate obtaining a bid or a request for proposal. And given the deadline urgency and the need to gain approval to be added to the BSNA software implementation schedule, finance is requesting the waiver of the bid and RFP requirements. Any questions I can answer?
On the, I saw the financial impact. Is this something that's, this will be in this year's budget or something that's budgeted for the next fiscal?
2026.
2026, okay. Questions?
Yeah, I just follow up to that, because the financial impact shows just under 156,000.
Correct.
You're showing an annual fee of 32, is that,
That's
we
in
have
that-
multiple?
That's in that number. So,
Okay, so
for the first-
what's
first-
included in that financial impact fee?
So, we're looking at 7 modules: the general ledger, the accounts payable, cash receiving, accounts receivable, utility billing, community development, and business license. It includes, there's an estimate in there of 24,000 for, training, which, because Howard and I have already had some experience with it, this is a cloud version, not the desktop version, so there's gonna be some difference there. But also because of relationships with the neighboring communities, we can go over there and have our staff see firsthand how the utility billing person is doing it, the steps, the process, walk her right through it, so that when it comes to training time, she's already has an understanding of it. Hopefully that's how
Does this streamline, because I didn't realize the community development portion of it. Does this streamline our permitting, our collection of fees across different departments as well? In addition to finance, from what I'm
I
understanding?
have to yield to Howard on this.
Okay.
What happens here is, how you call it, there's different, people have access to the, let's say, the property address or building permit number, and they could, work on it. So for example, I could work on it for planning and zoning. I could say it's a special use, I could put the special use materials in it. When it comes in as an application, then there's a building permit. When it goes for like new construction, then Public Works will look at it, Water will look at it. It could also be used for code enforcement, for storing information. So it's like a database that keeps growing.
Is this, so is this new software for those departments? Is this replacing stuff we're using and consolidating? Does that make sense? Because it sounds like, believe me, in the public, we need to consolidate software around here because there's some outdated softwares.
Right, and so this is replacing the existing, software, financial software. Finance. This is our major tool.
Okay.
The most important tool. Again, general ledger, accounts payable, cash receiving, accounts receivable, utility billing. Community development, business license.
Okay.
So it's all the,
manual cost savings compared to what you were.
so I did mention the, G-Works annual licensing fee was 39,000. BSNA's licensing fee is 32,700.
Okay.
So there's an annual savings to the number.
Would all departments use it? All of them?
Um,
Even like parks?
So, I'm all about sharing all the information I can, and so there's a way to make, view-only privileges, rights and privileges. So like in the accounts payable side, if I can share that out so that, the other departments are able to go in and see their different invoices if they wanted to look back on something, or look up a line item, whatever, then I'm all about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that cuts down calls to finance. When we're researching, currently paper-based, she has to walk across the building to get the paper from a former invoice or something, go back, scan it, send it off, or make the call. So we're trying to go digital as much as we can.
Sounds good.
Trustee Pierce?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, was part of your question was like, in parks, when somebody gives them a check, they put that check into the ledger,
So cash receiving.
the cash received or whatever, then it's tracked.
Or,
Whereas right now, they're separate from.
or
each
even
other.
like park impact fees or a new, building. Right, a new housing development. I
So
mean,
it's the cash receiving module and being cloud-based. See any reason that they couldn't. It's not like only one user can, the front counter can be the only one making the entries. So it's just reviewing the internal controls and, looking through the process. But
Because it strikes me, everything should be coming in the same way, whereas before, I know parks had their own program. At some point. Yeah.
on the other side of the story.
Hi.
All right, so let me, so we have new here she is. We have another, if you haven't met Katie, she's our new
Good
Parks
evening.
Director.
I'm taller than that, Michael. Good evening. I am Katie Kotlaski. I am your new Director of Parks and Recreation. Thank you so much. It's been so nice to meet you all. So I think the question that you're asking, trustee, is will our civic rec program that we use for registration go away? And the answer to that is no, because that is registration software where we set up individual programs and activities and things of that nature where families go online. The system that Michael is referencing is an internal tool that we'll be using where I can go in and look up, oh my gosh, what are these people spending all this money on? I'm gonna kill somebody, I'm just kidding. But and look up the receipts and figure out where these expenditures are going internally. But the registration software that we currently have is Civic Rec. And that is obviously there's a back end to that software and there's a customer facing end where if you were going to go online and register for our 5K on the 22nd, you could go onto our website, make an account, register yourself, and you're charged through that. We take the money that we bring in through Civic Rec and then it would go to Michael and his team when we do those daily reconciliation reports or weekly, depending on things are happening. And then that money talks to Michael and his team and they input those accounts receivable amounts into the new software or even the current software that we're using. So there are still two separate softwares that are necessary because one is for internal use and the other is for back end registration and customer facing and interface.
My concern is, I believe we ran into this with Camp Crane's issues, that when it came time to issue the refunds, people were like, I paid this.
Yes.
And other people were like, how do I find what they really paid?
Yes, I've identified that problem as well.
So I wanted to make sure we have a firm grasp on where the money's coming in.
Correct.
Have it input into our financial package correctly.
Yes.
And then, we have it tracked properly, so when somebody says, I paid $80 for a special package, that we know that they really paid it or they didn't pay it, and that somebody gets the due refunds they're supposed to have.
Correct, and I could not agree with you more. It's a sticking point of mine. It should be exactly what it says it is in the software. It's been my discovery that that hasn't always been managed that way. However, that is my expectation moving forward, that exactly what happens in real life is what the system will reflect. So it takes a little bit more work on the part of staff to go in and transfer somebody from swim lesson A to swim lesson B, but if it's not in the system, it doesn't exist in my mind. So it needs to be in the system, and that started taking effect 2 weeks ago tomorrow.
Right. And Michael, back to you. Thank you, Katie.
My pleasure.
Honestly, almost every finance director that's come here, and welcome aboard, has brought in a new software package. Because it's the latest and greatest software package and they know what it is and they're comfortable.
Well,
This hasn't heard.
You wouldn't have me up here if she would have done it 3 years ago.
Correct,
So-
but I understand that, but
And Joy was here for
I
20
just wanna
years,
make
the
sure-
software's 20-something years old.
I just wanna make sure you're comfortable with it. And
100%.
and it's gonna work for you so that you can keep track of our finances.
Yes, it's right-sized for Antioch, I'll say that. And when I was in North Chicago, they had paid, it would have been $500,000 for Tyler's software, and they thought throwing all the money at it was gonna solve the financial problems that they were having. Just internal processing problems. Throwing all the money at it would solve it. I said, no, this is nothing but a nightmare. And if I deploy this, it will sink you. The staff doesn't have that skill set. You know, it's a lot involved. It's a way bigger software than that community needed. You need to right size your software. You don't buy the biggest and most expensive and think you solved. That is not how it works. You need to be right sized, and this is right sized for you.
I just want to buy what works for you and our finance team, so it's done.
I fully believe it.
Thank you. Any other questions about that? All right, thank you. All right, next item. So, discussion regarding strategic planning meeting. So, as the board knows, call them quarterly meetings. I don't like to do them quarterly, but twice a year, to talk about our big capital planning, things like the memorial stuff, the parks, the wetlands, building public works. You know, usually around budget time or pre-budget time, and then, you know, kind of a mid-year checkup. So I was hoping that we could take instead of asking Lori to send out an email to everybody seeing if certain days work, and then her trying to put together get her abacus out and trying to figure out what days might work. If we could maybe pick a 2 dates in this calendar year that we think may work. You know, typically 2 to 4 hours, you know, would be good. I don't really like them in this traditional board setting. I think we get a lot more done when we're kind of in a roundtable open discussion. So I'm opening that for discussion. You know, I've tried to keep them on Friday afternoons for a couple hours just because I don't want to impede on, you know, staff come in additional days on the weekend. But it's up for discussion. I just want to make sure we keep those on track because I do think a lot of the big projects we have approved and are moving forward now are in a result of those more open roundtable discussions. So are there any concerns, dates? You know, I know we're getting close to budget season, so, you know, I would say sometime between now and June would be ideal for the first one. I guess at this point, we'd have to just put out some, you know, an amount for capital projects on the budget and then kind of divvy that money up at this point, if that goes into that, and then somewhere, you know, 6 months later to see how we're doing. That's kind of my thought process. Again, I'm open to suggestions, but I do think we, as a board, get a lot of momentum at those meetings, and no more moderators other than us. Oh, that's like,
I'm just gonna ask, is the March 21st date confirmed that Clerk Romine emailed out?
it hasn't been confirmed. If we do want to confirm it, we can confirm it tonight, but I'm open to discussion.
My only other question is if anyone was available other days than Fridays, I can make it work.
Sure.
But those are always tough.
It doesn't, honestly, I know with your job, it doesn't have to be a Friday. It could be, like I said, I just like the more informal setting than this. Trustee Pierce?
Earlier, I made a comment about sometimes it's not good to be a lawyer. In this case, it's good to be a lawyer because you can schedule your docket, your plans, your customers based upon when you want to have this meeting, and Friday afternoons may be more convenient on your workload. Some of us work for employers who, if we take off, we have to take vacation days. And I don't mind doing that if necessary. But I've already shifted my schedule to Wednesday nights, so it was more convenient for people. Which means sometimes I have to fly back into town and drive several hours to get back, but that's part of the job. It is part of what I've committed to. But I'd like to see these occur at nighttime, and if they're in more informal situations such as at the library or something, I would like them at nighttime, not only so that those of us who have to take vacation time to be here don't have to take our vacation time to be here. Also, so that if members of the public want to come and watch us, they can come and watch us talk, because it's not fair to them for us to do this during the middle of the day where 90% of our population probably can't make it here because they're not lawyers or local business owners or whatever. Most people are leaving town to go to work. So I think we need to do it at night. I think it needs to be done in a location that you're comfortable with. But I think it needs to be done in a location where the public can come and watch us and be there.
Any other discussions, suggestions? I just don't want to do it the same night of a board meeting, because I think that's a lot. I don't care.
It doesn't matter to me, I'm retired now, so, but I used to take, for everyone I attended the last 4 years, before last year, I took a vacation day, so. It doesn't matter to me what day it is, or if it's night or day, I'll go with whatever the board wants.
If we do it in the evening, would an earlier start in the evening be better, so that, we get people
so.
out of here earlier, so they're not here so late?
To me, it,
You have to consider, I'm sorry, consider staff too. I mean, if.
Yeah.
They're gonna be here during the day and then they're gonna be extended.
Yeah.
To the evening, you know, that's another consideration that needs to be taken. And then weekends, I not for weekends because again, that puts staff having to come in to attend that. So.
What is the, do we have any dates other than, I think Christmas and Thanksgiving where we have canceled a meeting, like where we, those two? So maybe, maybe we work backwards. Maybe November is one of those months, since we already have only one meeting, where we pick another date so that staff only has to go to one, one meeting, additional meeting, and then, we could look at something, April, May for this time around. So, do we want to say, depending, it's only the 5th? Is there a night other than Wednesday nights that work?
Mondays are best.
Monday night.
Monday nights on non-Lions Club weeks. What?
We're the first and the third.
So second or fourth. So, with that, yeah, then we essentially have 2 meetings. How about the 24th of November? Does that, no, you're second and fourth, so how about the 17th of November? I'm working backwards for the second one.
It's easier to work forward, though. It's like we have to schedule the first one soon.
Yeah, I was just looking at months where we don't have 2 meetings. How do you want to handle this? You want to bring your advocates out and work through this?
This sounds terrible. We used to have 4 meetings a month. I know, we've combined them all together to have half the meetings.
Okay, so if we do it at, say, between 5 and 6, start on an evening, you want to work with the trustees, we'll get 2 dates and we'll just lock them up for the calendar. So we're not doing it, so we just have them, and then next year when we approve the board meetings, we'll just work those in at that time. Does that work for the board? Okay, all right. So we'll look at some Monday evenings earlier and not conflicting with Lions Club meetings. My attendance is so good. All right, other business. All right, a motion to adjourn. All right, trustee Peterson, second, trustee Pierce, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, this meeting's adjourned at 8:14. We'll take a 5 or 10 minute recess for the regular meeting. Call the regular meeting to order at 8:30. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Present. Here.
Present.
Present. All right, we have 5 items on the consent agenda. First one is approval of the February 26th meeting minutes. Second one is approval of an ordinance for the Sequoia Creek Cafe. Third is approval of a special event liquor license for the St. Patrick's Day event. 4 is approval of the Protect Lake County item that Chief Gutchow spoke of. And the last one is approval of a resolution waiving fees for permit fees for the VFW, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so there's 5 items. Is there any request to remove any of those items from the consent agenda? All right, I have 2 requests to remove number 2 from the consent agenda. Motion is second.
No,
All right.
one person.
All right, so that item will be removed from the consent agenda. So we're gonna vote on items number 1, 3, 4, and 5. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee McNeil. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, 6 voting yes, motion carries. Item number 2 on the consent agenda will now be item number 1 on the regular business. This is approval of an ordinance authorizing the Village of Antioch, Illinois to enter into agreement with TLC Bakery LLC to operate a cafe at Sequoia Creek Park. Ordinance number 25-3-8. Do I have a motion and a second waiving the second reading?
So moved. Waiving the second reading.
Motion trustee
Second.
Luther, second trustee Peterson. All right, this is the lease for the cafe building with TLC Bakery, which is also the operator of the Latte Cafe. So I will open this up for discussion or questions of the village attorney regarding the lease. Anyone want to start on this side? Any- Trustee McNeil, do you have a question?
I have a question for the village attorney. So in the license agreement, and I might have missed this because I was trying to power read through it when I got the draft, but does it allow the business or the licensee rather to do like special events on her own outside of the business hours? Like I know she does things at the Latte Cafe, like charcuterie classes and painting tips, and I'm just curious if we would be allowing those to occur. If they'd have to have some sort of special approval by the board outside of her.
It's an excellent question. I am looking for the provision and I apologize that I cannot find it off the top of my head, but it is a non-exclusive license agreement. And there was some discussion about flexibility relative to business hours. And I'm looking for the provision, Madam Trustee. It escapes me as to when it was, but we did minimum operating hours may be adjusted by written agreement, parties upon request of the license with oral approval being accepted. And I had always allowed for that to create a level of flexibility that was discussed. With the permission of the chair, I'll defer that also to Kim, if that's okay. But we built that in. I'll talk while we're waiting for Kim to get up there, but it's on page 6, page 30 of 231 of your packets. And the idea was to give the vendor, maybe the licensee is a better term, a little bit of flexibility about time and use, and because it is a new use for us, and there's going to be a little bit of, I don't want to say growing pains, but evolutions to how we go.
I was just thinking that maybe there should be approval if it's beyond the business hours, like if she's doing a big, you know, special event outside the normal.
So we have in the lease, 10.3, it does talk about that. We put in there for that she can be part of village events, even beyond the range that we have in the agreement from April to November. So say like the January wine walk, she can participate in that. And even do more events depending on what she can do with staffing and stuff. So it is part of that element of 10.3 that I think falls in with events.
But if she was to do something, I'm so excited, by the way, I'm not downplaying this, but like if she was to do like her charcuterie class privately, would it have to be village sanctioned because it's something kind of outside or normal hours? Does that make sense?
So I don't think if it's just with her, she can't do that. It's gotta be collaboration. So it has to be with regards to what we want her to be with the lease and what that cafe is supposed to be for.
Can I add on that? That's an excellent point. We have made this for a non-exclusive license,
Yeah.
such to maintain in part the public integrity of the public integrity and public use of that facility. So for her to cordon it off like that might not work under applicable law.
Okay. My other question was, I know that there's a rent abatement and things like that, how, just logistically, and maybe the board already knows this from dealing with other businesses, but how does the revenue get presented and calculated, or how is that reported under the?
After the abate, or after the
Mhm, after the abatement, like, is it like a monthly, or I just don't know the logistics of that, or if it's spelled out, like, does she present weekly numbers or monthly, or?
I guess one thing for context on that, Rebecca, may add, there was we only had 3 people really putting in for the RFQ. Pretty much every one of them asked for a large ask of equipment and upfront investment from the village. So in lieu of that, we figured instead of us writing a check, this would probably be a better way for us to help them get cash flowing than writing a check for private, use of, or carving tables, whatever they're asking.
I just meant like after that point going.
Sure,
forward, just
after the
for-
2 years or whatever it is.
And, page, in our packets, page 26 of 231, I believe page 2, licensee agrees to and shall provide true and accurate financial statements of the licensor each month demonstrating gross revenue generated by the cafe business for the month prior. So we do get that,
I do.
yeah.
I was just gonna point that out.
And we do have an example from the theater.
Movie theater.
We did have that issue.
Those are just my basic questions, so.
Trustee Pierce?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna throw a tailspin into this, I'm sorry. You know, it's come to my attention and I tend to agree to some points that have been brought up to me. When we invested in this park, we sold it as a family-friendly park and for kids. And we saw the overwhelming response last year with the kids. You can't hardly, even this last Sunday, you could hardly walk in there with all the kids playing. And so now we're taking this step, and I think it's great to have a cafe in there serving food. But if you look at the menu, there's 30 mixed alcohol drinks or beers or wines compared to 17 food items. It sounds almost more like it's gonna be a bar. And are we really wanting to go down the road of people bringing their kids down there, playing with their kids, drinking while their kids are playing, in a village sanctioned manner? I get that people are probably sneaking beers and wines in there somehow, and we may have somebody crawling underneath the bridge while his kid pees in the creek, smoking a joint, and we can't catch them all. But in this case, it's a village sanctioned activity. If they're paying us to sit there and drink while their kids play in the park. And the biggest attraction of this park was how kid-friendly it was. And now it's going from a kid-friendly park to a adult-friendly park. And I don't agree with that. In the beginning, when we were planning this, it was in my mind, yeah, this is great. It's a wonderful thing. We're gonna have this place, and moms will be sitting there at night around the fireplaces drinking their beer. But at the same time, some kid's gonna walk up, his dad's gonna go play over there, I want a beer. And is that the message we want to be sending kids? And is that the type of environment we want down there? And so, in this case, I think we need to think long and hard about turning over a liquor license down there. And I may be a minority on the board here.
Any questions, comments on that?
Yeah, so I'm with trustee Pierce. The tolerance for alcohol is apparent is 0. Driving, drinking. The other problem is when you introduce alcohol in the park, how do you determine where that alcohol is purchased and what's brought in? Police officer can't go up to someone that appears to look like they're 19 or 20 and say, let me see your ID. They don't have, the person can say, well, go get that. They don't have RASDAT, reasonable articulate suspicion that they committed a crime. Just because the way they look, you can't ask for an ID. And they
Well, she
correct me
will
if
be
I'm wrong. Hold on.
Carding them,
Pardon me?
but she will be asking for ID when she's.
But if you got alcohol in the park and someone else has got alcohol that looks like they're underage, you can't control other people that have alcohol in the park. So you're gonna have other people, so someone could be buying alcohol for someone else. She may be IDing, and then that person then is bringing, you're gonna have a whole mixture of booze in a kid-friendly park. And then the police officer can't go up to someone and say, you look underage, and I wanna see an ID. You can't do that in a public park. You're gonna have no police control over, hey, you look, I wanna see your ID. Can't do that, that's illegal. So how do you secure alcohol from people drinking and walking around? How do you prevent someone from leaving a drink and a 2-year-old picking up a mixed drink and that 2-year-old drinks it? Or how do you, a drink falls in the fire and you get a flashover and somebody gets burnt.
I would like to defer that to the police department in part, but I will also tell you that if someone was that intent on bringing alcohol in there, they could maybe put it in a cup.
Well, I'm sure,
You know,
I'm
pay-
sure everybody can break.
Trustee, if I could just finish.
Well, I got the floor. To all due respect, attorney, I'm the elected official, you're not. I'm talking to the police officer right here. I know you wanna talk. I know you wanna have a vote on this board, but I'm referring to.
Let's keep
I'll ask Keith to come up here with my questions. You wanna return an email question to me?
Alright.
Fine. And I refer to.
I'm talking, alright, trustee Basic. You asked a question, the police chief, he's standing there ready to answer your question. Could you restate the question?
The question is, if we got alcohol in the park and you got underage drinking, how do you prevent that underage drinking with going up to someone and patrolling when you got underage drinking, when it could be a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, when people are all of a sudden carrying it around? How do you keep it within the park and all of a sudden it doesn't become, they're walking down the streets with it?
I certainly think there could be some logistical issues with trying to confine sales to the park. Obviously, we would treat it like any other facility where our officers would take appropriate actions if they see alcohol leaving the physical grounds of the park, which is kind of where this would be allowed. As to the identification challenges, I can acknowledge some of those concerns. Certainly if one of our officers drove by and they saw somebody with alcohol that they believed to be underage, I would expect them to do their due diligence to investigate that. There are some challenges that are introduced in a facility or venue such as that, as compared to a tavern. You go in and there's requirements, age requirements to be in a tavern if you're unsupervised by an adult. A public park that's introduced new challenges to that. And the reality is, in today's climate, we got something in the right to use. It's not an incentive that law enforcement's gonna escalate.
It's very tough.
It becomes a risk versus reward. We want to have an implementation.
And theoretically, if an officer detains them without RAS, reasonable regular suspicion, the officer could lose their immunity, qualified immunity. Theoretically.
Qualified immunity is
It's significant.
very complex.
So I just want to make sure, introducing alcohol with children and the zero tolerance, anybody under 16 in a car, with a parent driving under 16 in a car, is illegal.
Yeah, and if I'm hearing things correctly, really, I think what it comes down to, without pulling the conversation completely into the weeds on like some of the minutia of how this would work, I think it really kind of boils down to a philosophical question before the board on
Right,
alcohol
family versus whatever, right? Okay, thank you.
I think, it might possibly be as easy as the owner of this cafe, having one of these little bracelets that you put on. And, you know, different colors for different days, and if you buy an alcohol drink, you get carded and you get a bracelet. You don't have the bracelet on, you're holding a drink. Well, I mean, I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. When we planned this park, we talked about, we were gonna have entertainment there, people could sit and have a glass of wine and watch the entertainment.
That was the directive I got for this.
Exactly, and that's what we talked about. I understand that there are people that don't want their children to be around alcohol. We can say there's a gate to get into the playground. We can put right on that gate, no alcohol drinks beyond this point. No alcohol drinks allowed in there.
Well, they could buy at the gas station right across the street and bring it over. So, I mean, there's a lot of situations.
So what I'm saying is, I can't imagine somebody would want to rent this from us, expend the money and do all this work without earning enough money to make it worth their while. And if I'm correct, they're gonna be open 7 days a week during the high season.
Yes.
And they're gonna be open from what, 9 in the morning until 7 at night, possibly longer if we have an event going and it's busy.
Correct.
So, they're gonna put in a substantial amount of hours. They're going to want to make some money. We are across the street during events selling beer. The same thing is happening across the street. Children are everywhere. Thursday night concerts. We sell beer. There's alcohol there. So it just comes down to something as I think as simple as wearing one of those plastic bracelets. And identifying who is sold the alcohol.
Can I interject something real quickly? I'm not saying that these aren't valid points. I know we're talking about the lease, but I'm 99% sure that when we talked about this as a board, a lot like the veterans thing, like maybe the ship has sailed. I'm 99% sure that we put in the RFP that whoever rents this place is going to get a liquor license. So I think we've already kind of approved it, even though it's now written in the lease. I'm just, not that we can't keep discussing it, but I do think I remember that. I don't know if we voted on it as a board.
I believe it was a requirement.
Yeah.
It was a requirement.
It was a requirement. Okay. Trustee Pierce.
Until the lady sings, I'm gonna talk about it. Just to respond back to a few items, yes, people can buy alcohol somewhere else and sneak it in there in a cup if they want to. But if we remember last year when we almost lost our minds over the rules of the park and discussing having police down there 24/7 or hiring private security because of the kids running up and down on top of the buildings and all the bikes riding through there and the smokers in there and all the activities we had spent quite a lot of hours coming up with rules of the park because we're in consternation over the behavior in the park. Now we want to add alcohol to that. And that's part of the reason why I think we need to think long and hard about alcohol. And you can't just confine the kids to the playground area. There's a splash pad there. They're gonna be running around the splash pad. Some of the kids like to take the seating area around the pavilion and use them as balance beams to walk back and forth balancing like they're ballerinas. I know that we have the taste of Antioch and the beer events and everything, but we gotta have a sanctuary somewhere for our kids. And I hate to use the word sanctuary because it's so abused these days. But we gotta have a place for our kids where they can feel like this is our place. This is our place of enjoyment. This is where I don't have to worry about anything in the adult world. I can just come in here and play and we can have fun and we can run around. And there's gotta be a way to make it work. I don't think alcohol is a way to make it work. You know, and yes, I did in the beginning and for most of the time, think beer and wine, you know, but now we're talking hard seltzers and hard this and hard that, and then we're gonna need to have bottled alcohol and mixed drinks, and I just think it's a slope we really wanna think long and hard about before we go down it. And if they're having an event over at the band shell, we need to enforce a rule. This park is no drinking. You know, and have signage up if we need to. No alcohol out beyond this point. Kids need a place so they know that they're just going there to be a kid. And that's what that park has turned into. My granddaughter loves to go there and play. And she loves the park. You know, now do I want to sit there and add one more issue besides all the issues we ran into last year? I'm at this point, I don't want to. I'm done.
Trustee Luther.
I think we're in a pattern tonight of talking about things well after we should have talked about them. Since day one, when we were talking about that park building, we've talked about them selling wine or beer. We've talked about people sitting around the fire pits drinking wine, like Trustee Peterson said. We've put out bids for these operators with the where they were told they would be able to sell alcohol. Now, 2 years later, we're at the point we're about to sign a lease or approve a lease, and we're talking about alcohol. Now, I don't know the owner of this establishment or anything else, but I'll probably guarantee if we pull liquor from them, they're not gonna wanna sign this agreement anymore either. And we'll have this thing sit vacant for another year. I think there was a time for that discussion, which, once again, we probably should have had one before we built that building then, if that was the case. But it's been said since the get-go till now that alcohol was gonna be allowed for sale there. When there was discussions about people bringing alcohol in, it was, well, once they're selling alcohol, then they can keep that alcohol out from other places. I know there will be enforcement issues, but you go to a zoo and they are selling alcohol. You go anywhere where there's kids, they're selling alcohol now. They're selling them in college football stadiums for the first time in a lot of places. But I'm just saying is, I understand what you're saying, Scott, and I agree in parts, but this is something that we've talked about as a board for 2.5, 3 years. And it always included alcohol. So now to come to the night when we're voting on the contract to put someone in that building, we're trying to rediscuss everything that went forward on that prior. So I'm not in favor of, changing it at this point. I think it has to be watched, and obviously at some point, if it does become an issue, that's something we'll have to look at, but I think we've sold this on the fact that people are gonna be able to go out there and have a glass of wine while their kids play or do whatever. It's been talked about multiple times. So I think, as a board, we should move forward on this but keep an eye on it, obviously, and make sure. We could always come back and adjust if need be, or if there's problems that come up.
Mary?
I know this park is a child-friendly park. My grandchildren love playing there as well. They love it. But it's not just for children, it's for people my age, it's for people in their 30s and 40s and 50s who go alone and they wanna go and on a Friday night and watch whatever person is playing there in the gazebo or on a Thursday night concert, just to sit over there and listen and maybe sit and have a beer or a glass of wine or whatever they want. I think that we should allow this. We've talked about it, and I really think that there isn't anyone that's going to rent that snack shop and make it worth their while without the alcohol sales. So I'm thinking that, you know, this is something that we all thought about. People just sitting around enjoying on a summer night, listening to whatever little band we have, or just even just
Picnic baskets.
acoustical guitar, just playing. They could, you know, have a sandwich or something and a beer. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
All right, so Rebecca's hand up. I'll take one more from everybody and then we'll call the vote if they want to say something.
I was just gonna say that I agree with trustee Bluthart and Peterson. I feel like this was discussed before. And I understand the concerns of the other trustees, but if you look at a place like Independence Grove, they brought the beer garden there with music and there is a playground for the kids. And I went several times last summer and it worked. Not saying there won't be problems like trustee Bluthart said, and we may need to reconsider it, but it worked beautifully where the parents were responsible enough. We're kind of presuming that they're gonna be negligent or irresponsible, and we don't know that until they prove themselves to be irresponsible. And the kids were off playing and the parents had a beer or two and it was sunsetting and it was just a nice experience, and I would hope it would be like that. And also to piggyback on what trustee Peterson said, I also like that the park is all inclusive. I don't have little kids anymore and I want to be able to use the park and walk through it. And I really enjoyed this summer seeing not just the parents of the little kids, but like older couples holding hands who could be maybe my grandparents or great grandparents just walking through, or younger couples with their dog, you know, walking through. And I just like that it's for everybody. I would agree. I don't really want people drinking maybe in the playground area, like keep the alcohol by the cafe space so that you're not, sloshing all over the park equipment with the kids, but I'm in favor of it until people prove that it can't be handled or something, or having problems, but I'd like to hope that parents are responsible with their kids so they can play freely and enjoy without becoming belligerent, alcoholic, people, in which case the police would have to get involved. So that's my take on it, but I'm in favor. But I actually think, by the way, this should agenda item number 8, I think we kind of skipped ahead of the liquor license. This is just for the lease, I believe, itself.
Right, and then if you look at the agenda number 8, there is a discussion with the liquor license that you could set that boundary. So if you guys want to say no alcohol in that playground area, that is an option that you guys could do at that point.
Any more discussion on the lease part of it?
Then I think the lease should update too, because there's companies that are getting downgraded, should at least say AM Best, A-rated company or better, lease.
Or insurance you're talking about?
Insurance, yes. Companies are getting downgraded, that's the fire with the insurance and whatnot.
I don't think that's an issue, right? The insurance?
Do you mind if I answer? No, I don't think it's an issue at all. I mean,
We can just put that in there.
Yeah.
The A-rated or better, whatever, that should be, that's pretty standard. in
Yeah,
contracts.
most contracts.
Yep. Okay, roll call please.
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
Mason,
For this one, I'll vote, yes, the other one, I'll say so.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, 5 voting yes, 1 voting no, motion carries. On to item 6, consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $392,653.77. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion trustee Bluthart,
Second.
second trustee McNeil. Any discussion? Roll call please.
Herman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes,
Peterson,
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. 7, bless you, consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing and approving the closure of A Street. It says A Street, it's supposed to be Orchard Street. Okay, of A Street for the Taste of Summer Festival in the Village of Antioch, Illinois, resolution number 25-18. Motion is second.
So moved.
Motion trustee
Second.
Peterson, second trustee Berman. Roll call please.
Herman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
yes,
Peterson,
Yes.
Okay, 6 voting yes, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of an ordinance adding 1 Class A and A1 restaurant and outdoor liquor license for TLC LLC DBA Latte Cafe at Sequoia Creek located at 845 Main Street. Ordinance number 25-309. Do I have a motion and a second waiving the second reading?
I'll move waiving the second.
Motion trustee McNeil, second trustee Bluthart. I know we've discussed about the liquor license in general. There is a note here that we need to ask if there are any areas that we want to exclude from being able to carry alcohol. Obviously, I think the park fenced in area is the obvious one. Is there anything, was that the playground, right? Is that a consensus of the board that has a sign on the fence saying no alcohol in this area?
In that area.
I would say the splash pad too, that whole area from the splash pad to east.
Okay, so we're saying, we want to exclude it from the splat, was
underneath
trellis area.
too. Kids are running in and out of there in the splash pad. You go there, the kids are sitting on the rocks, they're running in and out of there. They're going back and forth to that. If you want them to drink alcohol, move tables over by where they're drinking alcohol.
Yeah, this was a matter that was debated by staff, so we're seeking some board direction on this. There was 2 different proposals, whether or not it was in line with the board's vision, whether alcohol would be carried throughout the park, excluding the playground area, or if it'd be more desirable to keep it kind of more focused towards where the cafe building is under the supervision of the licensing, that sort of thing. So that was where staff was.
I mean, I would say Fire Pits Cafe in the pavilion, if there's, that makes no sense, right?
Because if you have someone playing, they're want to sit on the
Yeah.
seats and be out.
I mean, I would say the splash pad and the park where the kids would be for the most part, right? Trustee Pierce, do you agree with that? That the fire pit, the cafe area and the pavilion probably make, if we're gonna allow it, would make the most sense for allowing it. And then the park and the splash pad are now.
I would ask the people who are voting yes on this, but I would say that splash pad all the way east. Because that's where all the kids are, the majority of the kids are focused.
Like from the entrance over there towards the end of the playground or the.
You can put a sign, no alcohol
Yeah,
beyond
it's
this
all
point or
hangs on
something.
the old, across from your house.
Or perhaps we put one to the east and the west of, you know, before the splash pad, before you leave the property itself. They'll kind of direct people if they want to go anywhere, they have to go over the bridge towards the pavilion.
The sign, no alcohol beyond this point, and then one.
Because you got that, like that rock enclosure around the splash pad, it comes out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Points in.
Okay, I would exclude those, two.
I think you should put on alcohol hours there, so someone's not there at midnight boozing it up.
Yeah.
Maybe alcohol at a certain time before
I
9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, they're closing at 7 and still.
Yeah, but you gotta post liquor hours.
I don't think any outside alcohol is allowed, right? No carrying.
Park rule number 1 says only with that village permit.
Yeah, I think it has to be bought on site, right? Is that my understanding? I think that, yeah, I think no outside alcohol is allowed.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we'll add that to the ordinance for that. So from the area, from the splash pad east, yeah, no alcohol beyond that point. So with that caveat, do we need to make a motion?
We can incorporate that amendment. Does anyone object? Mr. Chair, what you would do is you would ask if anyone would object to that amendment, and then we could just incorporate it therein, or you could ask for a friendly amendment to incorporate that change. I would say the first is probably the easiest way to go.
All right, so no objection to that amendment. All right, a roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, 5 voting yes, motion carries. Next is consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the interim village administrator to authorize the bid contract to Langton Snow Solutions, DBA Langton Group for lawn mowing and landscaping maintenance at Sequoia Creek Park. Resolution number 25-19. I have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion trustee
Second.
McNeil, second trustee Berman. Any discussion? I know Dennis's rubber stamp. This one is the best one, right, Dennis?
Yes,
Okay,
this was the lowest bid.
lowest bidder. All right. Roll call, please.
Oh,
Sorry, trustee Pearson.
I know this says for, this is for the Langton Group. Are they the same ones that did the maintenance there the mowing and all the groundkeeping last year?
And,
That's Sequoia Creek Park. This is a different group?
correct. But Langton did do our village-wide mowing back in 2016 to 2019.
They're not the ones that let all the weeds and dandelions grow. Well, that'd be us. Never mind.
Who did the park last year?
It was Clarence State.
Did they bid or?
They supplied us with some budget numbers, and for some reason, the individual that was supposed to do the estimating on it, provide the bid, had a emergency that he was not able to
Bid on?
fit within.
Okay.
I'm just curious because they did a great job last
Do we have a 30-day out on this? Can't remember.
Well,
If we weren't happy with what they're doing, we have a 30
oh,
day out.
yes.
We have a 30, like we have a cancellation clause in there if we thought they weren't keeping us.
There is.
Okay. All right.
I thought you meant with accepting it.
No. Do we have a 30-day out clause with them if they're not doing a good job?
If we're not pleased with them, they have a correction period, and then we can basically.
Great.
That includes mowing, and mulch, does that include weeding and everything else throughout the summer as well?
Correct, so, it'll include mowing, weekly, maintained at a certain height, it'll include an application of mulch in all the landscape areas in May. It'll include hand weeding, spraying of weeds within the landscape beds, fertilizer and broadleaf control of all the grassed areas, trimming of all the shrubs, and some of the trees.
All right, roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, 6 voting yes, motion carries. Next item, resolution and approval of a resolution authorizing the interim village administrator to authorize the bid contract to Hometown Lawn Care for lawn mowing and maintenance of Village Properties, resolution number 25-20. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee
Second.
McNeil, second trustee Berman. Any discussion on this one? Trustee Pierce?
Hi Dennis, sorry. I looked at all the pictures, which is probably what took my package so long to download.
Oh, yeah, I can shut down.
But I do appreciate the pictures. One thing I didn't notice in there, we have properties in Oakwood Knolls that we never maintained for so many years. Then Oakwood Knolls remind us of our ownership, and now we go out there and mow them. Is that our crew mowing them, and we're gonna continue doing that, or was this included in this package, but there's no picture?
That particular area was not included in this package. We do have other properties that in-house staff maintains, like the existing village hall. We mow that, the mini parks, the triangle, Oakwood Knolls, several other locations.
Okay, and then am I gonna get pictures from Chris Linghart this year showing me the mowing around the path in Springer Park and New Haven?
No, you won't.
Okay, thank you.
Dennis, last question, does this include the new village hall too? Did we add that in this time? Okay, are we doing that one?
So we'll do that
Okay.
in-house until, if we need to include it in contract, or there, within the contract, there is a clause in here that I can change items, I can remove properties or put other properties in.
Okay.
That would-
Any other questions?
With students, I didn't see a certificate.
They will, that is part of, once you approve the contract, that's part of the paperwork that we will receive, prior to basically allowing them.
All right, roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, next item is consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing and approving the site of the Antioch Veterans Memorial Project in the village of Antioch, Illinois. Resolution number 25-21. I would add the caveat through some discussions afterwards that this would be based upon the village board's further approval of the site plan, the size and location of any monument that would go there. So I would add that caveat to the resolution if it was to pass. So do I have a motion and a second? Motion trustee Luther.
Second.
Second trustee McNeil on that. Any more discussion on this other than
I would just like to have the American Legion involved.
we'll make sure who is Jay contact?
Jay and Paul.
Okay, so do we have any more discussion on this item other than we're approving the site for moving forward, but with a caveat that the design and the shape and the location generally is going to be subject to coming back to us for final approval.
Works to satisfaction.
That's it. Yep, trustee.
But if all sides aren't agreeing, then
I mean, we still have to do the final approval before they can break your eyes. If we don't agree on what they come back with.
Yeah.
As the final site approval, then we can still control that.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Mason,
And for the vets, but I'd like all sides before I put a yes vote, so it'd be a no vote this time.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, we have 5 voting yes, 1 voting no, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of a resolution approving the memorandum of understanding between the Lions Club Incorporated and the Village of Antioch, resolution 25-22. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee
Second.
Pierce, second trustee Berman. Do we need any more discussion on this? If not, roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with BSNA for financial software, resolution number 25-23. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion trustee Pierce, second trustee McNeil. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
All right, 6 voting yes, motion carries. Number 14, can I get a motion and a second I guess what, removing this item for the agenda until the clerk. Table, yeah, table it, yep. Table it to the next meeting. The motion, tabling this to the next meeting. Trustee Pierce, is that you?
That was me making that motion.
Motion, trustee Pierce, do I have a second? Second, trustee Luther, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple very brief updates regarding our Village Hall project. Our project manager for FQC has been spending some time on site prepping for renovation. We were able to expedite the issuance of the appropriate permits for the project sooner than they expected, so they are hoping that they're actually going to begin the demolition phase of this project in advance of the anticipated April 1st start date. So they're hoping to get going a week or so early.
Can we get a sign or a banner out there that says future home of Village Antioch? Village Hall, Antioch Village Hall.
Just not double sided and too close. Kidding.
So that'll happen, kind of in the meantime, FQC is also working behind the scenes to finalize the trade contractors with the awarded bidders. We got some unfortunate news through Representative Congressman Brad Schneider's office. He wanted to let us know that the nearly $600,000 grant that we have cautiously been optimistic to receive, as we made it through most of the phases for award, due to all the things taking place currently at the federal level within Washington, all of those special appropriations have been put on pause. So it will be something we'll have to resubmit again next year for said opportunity, because kind of the ship has sailed and that opportunity has passed us. In order to continue to try to seek funding through our larger state government and federal government partners, we have followed up with Senator Wilcox's office to recall him last meeting, staff did encourage us to submit projects to them that may qualify for state funding. So Assistant Minister Rand is working on a list to submit a letter to Senator Wilcox's office to encourage him to continue to advocate, as he always has, for our local projects. Unless there's any specific questions, on those items, it will conclude my report for this evening.
Pierce. Sorry, it must be my night to ask questions. I apologize. Can we get an update? I know it's not our project, but can we, people are asking all week about Deep Link Road and the status of the things.
Yeah,
I've been telling them it's on delay until future funding for acquisition and stuff.
Dennis, have you heard anything updates from the county?
I've not heard anything recent, but at my next report, I can try and give you the best update. I'll have to reach out to the engineer for the county on that, so I'd like to get some.
All right, thank you.
Is that it, Jeff? All right, clerk, village clerk, no report, any trustee reports? All right, department reports, first community development, Howard.
I call it the first item of discussion is the ICC codes that have to be adopted before July 1st. That's being worked upon, coalescing. It's moving forward.
Is that the one sprinkler one you sent me?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's various codes. It's the international residential, international building code, mechanical, HVAC, what have you. Yeah, we're in the process of going from 2012 to 2024. So we're requesting HR Green to look at the codes from 2012 to 2024 and try to see what needs to be updated as a separate amendment for the building construction section of the village code. For example, we're in the process of taking out fire sprinklers required for single townhomes. So that changes some other sections of the code.
Susie Pierce?
Are we wanting to take out the fire sprinklers? I mean, at some point, shouldn't we be moving towards that for insurance purposes and stuff? I mean, maybe Ed has input on that with how it impacts insurance, but at least in like the laundry rooms or kitchens,
So in the perfect world, I would encourage to adopt the code as is, but I don't think there's a majority here that wants to go with fire sprinklers.
Every time the code comes up, it becomes a big hoop along over sprinklers.
Yeah.
Safety over cost, you know, I was just asking.
Yeah,
Maybe the board wants to have that discussion with one of our.
Yeah, and it might be one of these, I think when we do our, strategy meetings, this might be a topic that we, even bring up as a more of a roundtable discussion thing too, so we could.
well, the issue is this, I'm going with the notion that we're not doing fire sprinklers, we're updating the codes. I'm going with the notion that I have to advertise and reach out to the development community to explain how we're progressing. So when it goes for the adoption, hopefully in June, we don't have a large crowd of builders saying, we don't want sprinklers, this is gonna wreck.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be the planner here, I'm trying to plan for the worst case scenario by having HR agreeing to look at what we're doing. Or helping me, assisting me, because it's very easy just to strike out a section, but when the code talks about fire sprinklers for everything else, you're changing other things, like the garage as an example. Now, there are other communities that have gone with, put fire sprinkler over fossil fuel areas. Your hot water heater, your furnace, your gas stove, how you call it. But then it's like you're doing half of your house. So it's either you're in or you're out.
Sorry, didn't Lake County, wasn't there something changed? I mean, it wasn't real recent, but it was somewhat recently with the sprinklers and,
So
I think it's single family.
yes. So naturally, before I got to this point, I conversed with my counterparts at Lake County, with the ICC, the equivalent, reached out to other people. It is required for single family and townhomes in unincorporated.
Oh, okay.
We're incorporated, so we come up with our own rules and responsibility. I was told by the fire district here, one of the major reasons, is the output, by the time they get there.
Sure.
Hopefully the building's not totally on fire. Now, keep in mind that the 2024 code is where I want to go with, because it's a 9-year cycle. This is going to be revisited every 9 years. So going with the 2024 code would be the ideal situation. Now, the situation is this. It's required if we adopt as is, right? The IBS, International Business, the International Building Code, and the IRS, International Residential. The IRS is the one that has the fire sprinklers. For the single family homes and townhomes, it's required for new construction, not for renovation or for older homes. Now, as you guys are aware, as a group, we have a lot of new subdivisions that are coming online. And these subdivisions are gonna be pretty costly, so for them to do it, wouldn't be that much of a cost, and this would be a safety factor. But again, I'm going with the assumption that this group as in totality wants that stricken out.
So if someone has a house and they're remodeling or adding on, they wouldn't, okay. It's just new.
New.
Okay, okay. Got it.
Right, the IBS, the International Building Code, has the square footage for the building, which could be modified. Anything else on the 2024 code? Okay, so other things, I'm also working on future development applications for Village Hall for the variances for the wall side, and also for Public Works, the new facility. I'm also assisting with Historic Preservation Commission, trying to get them off their feet, and in the sense that, they've gone through all the heavy lifting of doing everything that needs to be done to get their group up and running. So I worked with Jim Moran and getting the webpage up, so now people can view materials online. So that's for me a big win, in the sense that we're trying to advertise, the group, the commission, that, we're here, we have interactive maps to see possible historic homes and stuff like that.
Can we get the URL the address, you said there's a, didn't you say there's a webpage for?
Yeah, I could email, we could email you the link.
Okay.
Right, and this is something that, I took over from what Michael was working on. So what's there is, there's an interactive map. If you want to see a little bit about the history of the house, you can. There's also the survey that was done in the past that's there that talks about the homes. What's also there is the hyperlink to the historic preservation code section from the village code. And then the final one is the guideline on what you do and how you do stuff. So there are lots of materials.
So if somebody has a house that they think that would qualify, is there a way for them, obviously they can look at all the guidelines and everything, but is there a way for them to apply on that website, or do they need to reach out to you to do so?
They would have to reach out to me or to the chair of the HPC. Typically as the liaison, I'm the one that takes in the application. So there's two things here we have to look at. So we already have the ordinance for this, right? So either people apply individually for landmarking their homes, or we come together as a group and we try to do this the downtown area historic district. We need to get more than 50% for that to happen. But there's two sides to this. Individual homes that can be scattered throughout the municipality or a district. The district is easy because when someone's applying for, let's say I'm changing windows to my commercial storefront, then they would have to go through a historic preservation review before they could apply for building permits. Now, the same thing also happens with landmark homes that are individually owned. But the idea of the HPC is to hopefully make the downtown, and to preserve the natural features, the aesthetics, the fenestration of the buildings in the downtown. And finally, I'm reviewing the application for Starbucks, the new Starbucks, and also the cannabis store.
Which store? Are they still coming out on Walmart by Walmart, the cannabis? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one. Yeah.
Okay.
They submitted an application, so I'm just verifying. They met the deadline, within a year they have to apply for permits. Now I'm just verifying that the name of the business corresponds to the original person who applied for it at the beginning. Or doing business as so and so. So that's pretty much in community development, moving along. That's it, thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Finance.
Good evening. Say thank you for the software approval. Received the email from Amy at IT. She's saying, woo-hoo, new software, so excited. So maybe one person yesterday, I know it is a morale thing for our staff, it really is. So much appreciated. The budget, as you know, I started January the 7th, and I was already 2 months behind for the budget calendar right out of the gate. We ended the use of the ClearGov for budgeting purposes, and it took me 5 weeks to create the budget, to the budget and supporting documents. There's a few other reports that go with it, to the point where I could distribute it to the directors. And so since that point, the directors have been entering the operational budgets, and it's coming along. The document now includes a 5-year financial forecast with fund balance totals. The proposed capital projects have been entered, and I'll be ready for the 321 capital budget meeting. I have more operational numbers coming from the departments that need to be entered. My next step really is preparing for the capital budget handouts and the presentation. And next, after that, then I'll finalize the budget and prepare the first draft of the board. Moving on to staffing, we're looking forward to accounting assistant John Kickert. He starts on Monday, so we'll be welcome to the team on Monday. We'll start to move forward with that. And I'm in the midst, or within this next month, of also piggybacking with the audit. So we have, that's now the priority and focus is the preliminary audit work. That's gonna be starting this month, so busy in finance, so that's kind of where we're at the moment.
Thank you. Commander Smith, please.
Good evening, this could be a short one. Our polar plunge for Special Olympics was last. We raised over $7,500 to Antioch team and our District 34. Some sad news if you could keep Wes Kumpela's family in your prayers. He lost his father unexpectedly last weekend. We would appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you give the deputy chief the rest of it?
Yes, sir.
Start working on it. If you need help, I'll help.
Will do.
Thank you. All right. I am going to make a request for a brief executive session regarding litigation personnel. No further business takes place after executive session. I have a motion. Trustee
Second.
Second, trustee Peterson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned at 9:28 with no further business to take place after executive session.